This Jemima Yoder Smucker, last of August 2008. Robert and I are sitting out on the deck down at Duart Lake, watching all the people out on the lake. A beautiful, beautiful day. Lots of boats out there. Some skiing, some just taking a ride. Very beautiful day. Wish I felt better so we could be out there too. And here's a little bit of my history. It's going to be kind of ramble-jamble, I guess. I was born in December. Selina and I were born December 10th, 1944, on my mother's 40th birthday. Must have been a Saturday night because the following day, my grandparents, John and Jemima Hostetler, had church at their house. And so when the news was taken up that Emma and Selina had twins, it was a very big to-do, because we were born on Mom's 40th birthday. My brother Freeman and Harvey lived at home yet, because we have heard them tell many stories about the night we were born. I think they thought it was a big deal, us being born on and being twins. Edna, my oldest sister, was about 13 years older than we, so she got to either babysit us as babies or go do the housework. So naturally she chose us babies. I guess maybe that's why I always felt so close to Edna. You should remember Edna too, because you have seen her, and you know Freeman and Harvey, and of course Levi and Marvin. Marvin is 9 years older than us, and he also had Parkinson's disease, like my dad. Uncle Marvin has a golf cart, which he goes wheeling all over with. They have, on the home place, they have like 2 ponds, and they're making a wetland out of it. And so they're really doing something with the home place, the old Dan D. Smucker place, but actually it goes back to my great-great-grandfather, Seth Smucker. Would have been the one that settled there, I guess. And at the time it was settled there, they had been living there in a log cabin. I don't know how many years, but they had been living there, and when they put the B&O railroad through there, they had to move the log house in order for the railroad to go through. So they moved the old log house and built the larger of the 2 houses that sit there now. Well, Marvin's lived in there for many, many years, and I grew up in the smaller house. We moved there when Selina and I were like 6 weeks old. We had renters and brothers or sisters that used to live in the other house, which now Glenn, Marvin's son Glenn, lives in. And he has built a furniture store out across railroad tracks. And he has built some ponds up around there in the back, and it's quite a place anymore. He's put some ponds in and is making a wetlands out of it. My dad started with Parkinson's disease before Selena and I were even born. And so I never knew my dad as a healthy man. He was always crippled with Parkinson's disease. It was hard on us, but now living with a father with Parkinson's disease, but now in looking back, you know, I wish we'd have done more to help my mom, because it was very hard on her, because she had to help him get up and walk and put in a wheelchair and get ready to go to church and put him on a buggy. And it was a hard life. My mom never had an easy life. And so I think we shouldn't complain. My parents, early in their marriage, went through the Depression. And my mom was known to say that we couldn't buy anything frivolous, which included soda crackers. And Mom said, when we get the farm paid off, then we can buy soda crackers, which today is a minor thing. And we'd all be better off if we were more frugal this way. I am 63 and Freeman is 82. And he comes over here to the lake and talks to us about what my parents' early life. They used to raise cabbage by the wagon load. Freeman says they cut off cabbage and cabbage till they thought there wasn't any more. But they took wagon loads and wagon loads to town to sell heads of cabbage, wagons round full of heads of cabbage. And this was during the Depression. Dad was raising hogs, and they couldn't even hardly get any money out of the pork because of the Depression. And they had, through the Depression, they almost lost the farms, 2 of them, where Harvey Liddy Mae now lives, and also the home place. Because they paid their loans back by nickels and dimes almost. And Harvey and Freeman, I think, worked the hardest and remember Dad the best. I wish I could remember Dad that way.
Let us pause in life's pleasures and count its many tears, while we all sup sorrow with the poor. There's a song that will linger forever in our ears. Oh, hard times come again no more. 'Tis the song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. Many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard
Yeah, my mom was shorter than what I am. She was a very generous, giving person. People would stop in from town for little this and that, and she'd always give them flowers, which were the peonies from, I guess it's the Indiana State flower. We used to have along the whole east end of the side of the drive, we had a whole row of peonies, which I believe they got rid of now. And she always gave from her garden, fruits and vegetables. I guess Freeman's that way now. He still works on his hands and knees, which Freeman lost his wife Betty in March. But he still lives over there at the lake, and he still works in his garden, and he gives food and fruits to everybody that comes. Although he's blind, he crawls around on his hands and knees and cleans the weeds out and picks out the vegetables, and he has fruit trees also.
So where did you and Selina sleep when you were girls?
Oh my. We had a house full of kids upstairs, all the boys, and then Edna and Melinda, and there was no place for a pair of twins. And so we had a brown sofa which you could open up, but it sure wasn't like roll-out sofas you have nowadays. And it had straw mattress in it, mattress tick material, and that was filled with straw and put in there. And Selina and I and Mihaela slept on there for many years. And then as Levi, well, I guess Freeman and Harvey left first, and Freeman went to Arizona and worked California, and lived out there for a year or two, working out there. And then Levi and Marvin were known to be very mischievous. I guess they never got paid back with their children like they behaved when they were teenagers. US 6 went over on the other side, north side of the railroad track, and they'd sit out in the cornfield, and one of them go across US 6 and sit in that cornfield, and then they'd have a roll of black electrical tape, and they'd pull this out across the road, and then as a car came along, they'd pull this tape up and it'd wrap all around their car. But one time it backfired because they got a police car. I don't know, I don't think the policeman ever caught them because they hightailed it out of there. When Selina and I were maybe 3-4 years old, I don't know for sure. And this is the first experience we had of in a car. We decided to take a walk, and we crossed the railroad track and went down US 6, which didn't have any stores or buildings along there at that time. And all I remember is screaming and screaming, and then being taken across the railroad track, and this policeman must have been very glad to get rid of us, because he asked my mom if her babies were at home, And sure enough, they weren't at home. They were in the police car.
So that was your first ride in a car.
Yeah. We had a salesman that had come to our house. He'd sell Watkins products. He was a good friend, I guess, to Mom and Dad, because he took us to Florida one time when we were quite small, and I couldn't figure out how in the world this car goes. So I decided it must be that the faster he turns the steering wheel, the faster the car will go. But I guess that's not the way it worked. And he took us to Florida one time. He had an old station wagon, and we must have traveled like, this was before interstate, believe me. A lot of back roads through mountains and hills and stuff like that, all the way to Florida. And I don't remember how many days it took us, but it took quite a long time. Maybe 40 miles an hour, 45. But you have to remember this was back in 1940s.
No words to say, no words to convey this feeling inside I have for you. Deep in my heart, safe from the gods of intellect and reason, leaving me at loss for words to express my feelings. Deep in my heart, deep in my heart, look at me losing control, thinking I had a hold. The feelings this strong, no longer the master of my emotions.
When Freeman was talking about during the Depression how tough times were when they couldn't even give pigs away. They raised potatoes and potatoes and potatoes. He said they couldn't even sell potatoes because people were so poor. And they were selling maybe like, I don't know, 10, 15 cents a pound. And so Dad would bag up a bag of potatoes and give it to the men that were working on building the road out front. He was just giving them away because they couldn't sell them. But this was before I remember anything, and so I don't remember a lot of my parents because, like I said, Mom was already 40 when we were born.
So you guys would have been born right after the war.
Mm-hmm.
Did any of the brothers have to do anything with the war at all?
No, that was before they had IW service for the war. So then later on, some of my brothers had to go to IW service if they wouldn't serve in the war. For 2 years, that was their way of service to their country.
What did they do? Do you remember?
First I remember is Levi. He worked at Westville Correctional Center. worked in the bakery there. But I don't remember if Freeman and Harvey had to do anything.
So did Levi do any baking then later in life, from what he learned there? Or?
Well, I don't remember that he did any baking at our house.
You said you thought your mom and dad got married in sometime around 1924?
I'm not quite sure of the year, but after they got married, they went to Oklahoma on a honeymoon, I guess you would call it, but they probably called it a trip to Oklahoma to see my mom's grandparents. And this was early in must have been the 1920s. So my grandparents out there still lived in a sod house, which was a very dirty place to live in, not very pleasant.
So that was would have been one of the original Oklahoma homesteads.
Yeah.
While we seek mirth and beauty and music light and gay, there are frail forms fainting at the door. Though their voices are silent, their pleading looks will say, "Oh, hard times, come again no more." 'Tis the song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times, come again no more. Many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard times, come again no more. Oh, hard times, come again no more.
My first job was babysitting. We started by babysitting in the evening for people from town and for Freeman and his family. We got 15 cents, 25 cents an hour for babysitting. And then later on, we started babysitting by the week, where we had to go and stay at their house all week long, 5 days, for $15 to $20 a week.
Did you and Selina work the same place together?
No, you never worked together. They didn't want to pay for two people. We had to work at babysitting, and then later we worked at a place called Comfo Sleep, which made sofas, chairs, and stuff like that. And I don't remember how much we made an hour, but it wasn't very much. And Selina and I both worked at factories like that, but we had to give all our money except maybe $2 a week, $5 a week later. We had to give to our parents until we were of age at 21 years. So when we were of age at 21, Selina and I decided to go to Florida on our own. And we went with my Aunt Barb and her husband, Uncle Elmer, and he was a great big tease. We loved him. And they took us along to Florida and let us live in their camper trailer, which had no bathroom in it or a shower, but it had a building on the outside with like a cemented sidewalks in between it. And so we had a toilet in there. But when we wanted to take a shower, we had to go over to my Aunt Barb's house and shower there. We spent the winter down there, which we enjoyed very much. We met some girls from Ohio, Esther and Ida Diener, which we became really close friends with. And to this day, we still are friends with them. And we remember spending many days sitting around their kitchen table. And Mary now is, I think, 94 years old. And Amos has passed away. He was almost 100, but he has passed away now for, I don't know, a couple of years.
So what was it like to go uptown to Napanee when you were girls?
You wouldn't believe it, but when Selina and I walked uptown, we went up for the flimsiest reasons. Like, we could buy a ice cream sundae, a big one, or a soda for a quarter, candy bars for a nickel. But when we had to, like I said, we got like $2 of our paycheck. We had to save up for anything we wanted to buy, which I bought a bedroom suit for $160 some, which I have today yet. And I think Brent's gonna get that.
Yep.
And anything we wanted to, personal things like nylons, anything like that, we had to pay out of that $22 a week. Plus, then in 1968, when I was in Florida by myself, I got the very sad news that my brother Marvin, who had lived in the big, large house on the homestead, his wife Katie Mae was killed in a train accident. So I took my first airline flight home from Sarasota all by myself, and I was scared to death traveling by myself when I had never done anything like it or even been on an airplane. But there was a kind gentleman on board who helped me out. When I got to Chicago, he said, well, they should have put me off in Indianapolis so I'd meet my connecting flight. He said, well, if we hurry, maybe I can get you over there in time. And sure enough, he did, which I was very thankful for him. Otherwise, I'd have missed my flight to South Bend.
We saw houses falling from the sky, where the mountains leaned down to the sand. We saw blackbirds circling round an old castle keep, and I stood on the cliff and held your hand. We walked troubles, brooding wind-swept hills, and we loved and we laughed the pain away. At the end of the journey, when our last song is sung, will you meet me in heaven someday? Can't be sure of how it's going to be when we walk into the light across the bar. but I'll know you and you'll know me out there beyond the stars. We've seen secret things revealed by God, and we heard what the angels had to say. Should you go first, or if you follow me, will you meet me in heaven someday? Living in a mansion on the streets of gold, at the corner of Grace and Rapture Way, in sweet ecstasy while the ages roll. Will you meet me in heaven someday? In sweet ecstasy while the ages roll. Will you meet me in heaven someday?